Hey everyone, welcome to episode 8 of the Extra Mile podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Jones, also known as Mr. Brightside. And to my left, your right, is my good friend, Glenn Fedale. He's our special guest today, but he's an incredible inspiration to me and what I've been able to do with my companies. And I feel like if I keep chasing this guy, I can't go wrong. So, tell these people a little bit about yourself, man, and where you came from, what you got going.
Thanks for that nice warm introduction. Like Bobby said, my name is Glenn Fedale. I started with a roofing company. I have multiple companies. Kind of consider myself a serial entrepreneur. I have a lot of different sectors, So my main key company is my roofing company. That's my biggest company. I've also got a concrete company where we do commercial industrial concrete installations. Last year, I've had that company for 7 years. Last year, we expanded into the supplying market, and I have concrete and mobile mix trucks now. So I'm able to supply myself the concrete as well as other people.
Which those trucks are pretty innovative too, right? They're a lot different than...
Yeah, the mobile mix trucks are basically, instead of having a mixer truck, it's different compartments on the truck that have the things that you need to mix for concrete. It's got a conveyor belt on the inside that puts these certain amounts basically off an iPad, so it's down to a 1% mistake rate, or it's got to stay within 1% of what you do, and that's like far above what you'll get as far as through these mixed trucks, because there's a hydration period, and then once something's been mixing for so long, you're not going to have the same quality, so you have issues with cracking and PSI is changing, that kind of thing.
I've seen that, that's for sure.
So it's really neat, and we started with 3 trucks, and now we're up to 4. We'll be up to 5 here shortly when the other one comes, and that's really been taking off.
That's awesome. Though you got to constantly differentiate yourself, man, and make sure that you're doing something better than the next guy. So that's awesome. All right, so what else you got? So you got the roofing business, you got the concrete business, you've got real estate too, right?
Yep. Do a good bit of. I started off in residential till I got up to like 180 some properties, and then I was just like, man, what the heck?
Yeah.
What am I doing here? And I kind of followed suit as far as the organic growth of real estate. I got into the commercial end,
right?
And then since then I've been kind of selling some of the residential. I still own a lot, but I've been selling them and picking up more of the bigger commercial stuff, and that's been kind of that's a much better market to be in, and it's a very thriving market right now.
Sure.
In specific sectors. So in one sector particularly is flex space. You've got you've got so much retail that went out, and so many fulfillment facilities. Just people that need smaller shops broken up. There's that flex space.
They don't need the storefront, but they need the operational space.
That's it. In the last 8 years, in and around Wilmington, including Newcastle, including Newport, where I own several different things, some business parks, some stuff that I've built up, some stuff that I'm presently building up. I also own some retail too, but small retail in specific areas on main roads. So I'm very careful about that. But my point was, flex space went from being rented around $350 square foot to now it's like between $850 and $9 a square foot in the last 5 years.
Just you see that, yeah.
So and money's cheap. The price on the properties is going up a good bit, but it hasn't gone up as much as the rent's going up. So there's still a lot of good opportunity to build or to take underutilized stuff and turn it into something that I know is in high demand. It's not going to stop being high demand.
Rent in general is going up. I noticed, like, I had a buddy of mine just move here to start work with us, and him finding a property, I was like, dude, their rent. Double wide trailers are renting for $1,300, $1,400 in parks and stuff like that right now.
It's amazing,
It's
man.
crazy.
I mean, I think it's just a sign of the times.
Sure.
Because you would think a lot less people are going to rent because of the super low interest rates.
Yeah.
But honestly, we've got super low unemployment, so everybody's got a job. Mm-hmm. That means most people are paying their bills.
That's right.
Most people.
Now, so you talked about moving your shift from residential to commercial and real estate, but with your roofing business, you've done a ton of commercial work. And
I've always done.
The concrete's mainly aimed at commercial, right?
Yeah, we don't do any residential in the concrete. We only deliver to residential contractors, so we don't actively compete with those people.
Right.
And even some of our competition will buy from us.
Yeah.
But
which is a good model anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But with the commercial, as far as that goes, we only specialize in manufacturing facilities, big monolithic pours, stuff that takes specialty and takes like really good safety records.
True.
Because the bidding pool's smaller, and you're not. The guys are really vetted, so the margins are better, and they know they're going to pay more because they're paying for a quality company. We've got a ton of safety awards. 2 years ago, we got the National Safety Award for ABC, which was amazing.
Nice.
And we're talking about Associated Building Contractors.
Right. Yeah.
And that was just a monster. It's got this big, cool eagle.
Yeah, which with construction, I mean, obviously, safety is a primary concern, but so many contractors are cutting corners and skipping over simple safety practices to see that, that's huge.
That, and I mean, that can be the matter of, sometimes the job won't come down to price. It'll come down to what's your safety program look like, what's your accreditations.
Yep.
There's so much that goes into it as far as trainings, as far as obviously no accidents, your EMR rating, there's so much that goes into it,
really is.
That somebody could be $100,000 on the job and somebody could be $75,000. They're like, this guy's got the better safety record. We're paying $100,000.
We're going there, yeah, exactly.
Because they cannot stand for an accident, and that's really big with refineries.
So yeah, that's huge. I want to ask you, because this is something that's been really big with me. Is like because like I said, I've been chasing you, right, way behind you, but I've been watching, and I've got another business, and I've got some real estate investments now. But one of the things that I've stuck to is that I want to do things that are close to what I'm already doing, right? So for me, like the commercial concrete makes sense to me. The property certainly makes sense when you're in a construction business at all anyway, because you're going to have a better idea of what's going on or what might be wrong with the property than somebody else might.
Right.
Now, so my question with that being said is, where does bump box come in? And how the heck did you get involved with bump box? Because that's way away from the...
That's interesting, man.
Well, I mean, we play music on the job sites, but that's about as close as we get.
So we got a little time here. So years ago, I mean, it all started in Vegas. That's where everything started. No, but a good friend of mine his name is Chris Nunez. He was he's the star of the show.
Tattoos, right?
Yeah, he's a tattoo artist. He's the star of the show. He started Miami Ink back in the day. Him and Hami, and then that was on the Discovery Channel, and then they made the transfer to Spike TV. Well, he did, and him and Hami, he sold out his part of Miami Ink, went to Ink Masters, and then was opening up a new shop, wanted to explore filming a few episodes there, trying to get some royalties, and just have his own gig. And so I went in as a friend with him on that, just kind of as a, it was kind of like, man, this is really cool. I could be a part of this. I'm no tattooer artist, but I wanted tattoos. So all my friends always joke with me. They're like, so Glenn wanted tattoos and he bought a tattoo shop.
Listen, I get it, man. Unlike you, because you have the roofing experience, I've never done a roof in my life, not even a single shingle. So you have the roofing experience.
Really?
All I have is the fact that I lived under a roof. Like, that's it. But now I know a lot about roofing, but I still haven't ever made a single shingle.
That's impressive. Man. Yeah, so I worked for a guy for 3 years. And I'm still good friends with him, a guy named Don Shit. Whenever I run up against him, because he's still he's a decent sized company. I don't know. I shouldn't say what he does a year, but he does a good bit.
Yeah.
He's not as big as us. Like when we joke, he's like, "No, you're 5 times bigger than me." I'm like, "Yeah, but your net is better than ours."
People don't get that, man.
No, and I left on good terms. I'm a firm believer of never burning
100%.
bridges. So like.
Well, I think the fact that you're sitting here talking to another roofer across the table right here is a perfect example to everybody out here that you're not one of those types of competitors.
Oh man, thanks. Man. Well, I mean, you see, man. You see, as far as everything goes, there's enough work out here for everybody, and the thing I try to set the example for is good business.
That's right.
It should not be cutthroat. I don't scalp other people's employees.
Nope.
I've had employees from other companies come to me and ask me stuff, and I'm like, I'll say, you're gonna have to talk to your boss first. I've also had bosses from other companies come to me and say, that's messed up that you offer my employee this money. And I'm like, what? Get him on the phone right now. Because I do not do that.
Yeah.
And I find out that they were just gaming them, trying to get a raise.
That's huge, man. That's big time, because it's, obviously it happens. People are doing it all the time out here, and you don't want that being said about yourself. And you know what? I think we're going to build on this for a second. We'll get back to the bump box thing, but I love what you said, because that's the culture that you've also created within Fedale, right?
Yep.
Like, I just met some of your guys on the cruise ship on the way back and on the plane on the way back, and all of them were really freaking kind, just ready to talk, like no problems with anybody, just ready to chat. But when I show up to your office, when we do like the talks at the detention centers or whatever, and I show up ahead of time, like your whole team welcomes me, like just the amount of kindness that you guys have built into your culture there just is amazing to me. But what you're saying about that like cutthroat mentality, you've established that with everybody within your, I mean, I walk in, your dad says hi, Alan says hi, Laura like says hi.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is what I want with my company. And again, one of the reasons why I say I'm chasing you is because that's admirable. That stuff is like what I want with my organization.
I appreciate that, man. You know, it's not always that way, but, you know, when the door's closed, sometimes voices raised.
Sure. Now, with that being said,
you always want, you know, you just want the best for the people around you and people who work for you. You know, like piggybacking off competition. You know, I like out of like the 10, you know, biggest companies in Delaware, I could see how someone incubated like 5 of them. You know, and I'm cool with that because all of them. I mean, not all of them, because some guys just left with a natural chip on their shoulder, and I'm still cool with them. But you know, they can never say I did them wrong, and I think they'd pick up my phone call if I called them. But for the majority of them, they do pick up my phone call if I call them and say, "Yo, man, what's up with this guy? You know, he worked for you before." They're like, "No, he still does. Why is he applying over there?" I'm like, "This is why we should keep an open line of communication." Yeah. That's why I would do the same for me.
Exactly. That's big, man, because people make assumptions, and then, you know, you don't hear anything from somebody. You're like, "Damn, what the heck is going over there?" They made an assumption that wasn't accurate, and it messed up the whole relationship.
And I've had guys that I've caught stealing that have went over and said this big thing, and they didn't call me about, "Hey, what did this guy get fired for?" Which I'm not allowed to really say, but I would say, you know, I can hint and say, you know, just be careful and trust him, and then they'll know my word means, all right, maybe I'll think second. And I've seen people get jerked because they didn't just pick up the phone.
Exactly.
You know, but you know, we all have people that battle with stuff, and we're all for people with rehabilitation and you know, people getting out of prison and not going reentry, you know, and just trying to help them with that. But unfortunately, you know, you're going to have your success stories, but you're probably going to have a lot more sad stories.
Of course, because they don't adopt the right mindsets, which, again, you can't help somebody until they really want the help anyway, so it's not something that you can
And a lot of
convince
times, part of their ultimate recovery is some sort of relapse.
Yeah.
You know, and learning how to get past it, and unfortunately, it's at our expense. So, you know, I've been to that. I've had extended family members that have had problems with it, and I've tried to help them through it. You know, it's going as far as being a sponsor. Yeah. You know, so not being in recovery myself. Right. You know. Yeah. But just saying, you know, like, hey, I'm here for you to talk. You know. Right. That kind of thing. Like even going to groups with them. You know. Yeah. Like, hey, I'm just sitting in. I'm not introducing myself as an addict. You know. I kind of got a sideways look on that from a couple people on that. You know, I'm just supporting there. Like, all right, you know, I don't know if you're supposed to be here. I'm like, no, I understand the program now.
No, but again, I think that just goes back to what we were saying earlier, dude. Like, I really think like you're the one of the most, especially for the amount of success, which we're gonna get into in a second too. The amount of success you had, like, I'll tell you, when I first met you, I expected you to be an asshole. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, because you just don't know until you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But dude, the complete opposite. No, I didn't even hear anything. I just, based off of the level of success you had, like, I've met plenty of people with that level of success that were cocky assholes. Yeah. So for me, like, that impression was left on me. That's why you stood out amongst all the people that I did meet. I'm like, this is the kind of person I want to. This is the kind of person I want to be. I want to be like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So let's go back to let's go back to the family business thing, right? So we're talking about the challenges with some of the other team members and some of the other employees and stuff like that. But let's talk about working with family and how, like, as you guys grew, especially because, you know, you guys had, you know, a lot of time in business, but a lot of growth very quickly. Let's talk about, like, some of the challenges you saw working with family and how corrective conversations and things like that might have played out along the way.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because as you grow, everybody, you know, especially as you work hard, like I'm really lucky to have just a natural work ethic in my family. For myself, I'm the oldest of 10 children. Let's start with that. Yeah. And my dad's a beast. He was never in construction, but he was a printing salesman that went on to retire. And I think he was, you know, being that I'm the oldest of 10 kids, the grandkids are coming along, so now it's like 23 grandkids.
Yeah.
And that's only the first 6 kids popping them out. So there's going to be a whole lot more grandkids. You're going to see little Fedales everywhere.
Do you think his sales experience and sales career influenced your gift the gab? And
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think to this day he's better at it than me. You know, I'm still learning from him. But I think what was cool was, you know, after he retired, you know, he's like, what am I going to sit home? But, you know, he's a born hard worker just like the rest of us.
Right.
So he's like, you know, what do you got for me? We're like, you know, what can we do? And we're like, you know, how about relationship building? And I mean, he is just, you know, picked up the lingo of roofing. And I'm also a junior.
Right.
And he's got a great radio voice. So when we do my radio ads, people were like, you know, they're like, hi, this is Glenn Fedale. And even though he didn't start it, you know, I'm like, say whatever you want, Dad.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody gives you props for it, you deserve the props for raising 10 of us.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
And
the team gets the credibility
everybody's
anyway.
Still alive.
We get the blame at the top, but we
Yeah,
don't get the credibility.
I know.
Like...
I know. I'll tell you a funny story, and I'll lead into that. But you know, my dad was so my dad's been working with me for a while just to clear it up, and he's doing great at relationship building. He's kind of like
he's an honorary commander, right? Just recently, I saw that for National Guard. Yeah.
So he stays a lot involved in a lot of the community stuff. We actually just recently started up an official charity. We've been going for 2 years, but it started officially to be a 501c. It's called Roofs from the Heart, where we nominate certain people that are in need of a roof and how we can kind of change their life. And if you look it up on YouTube, it's a really moving story. You go G Fedale Roofs from the Heart, and you'll see just some of the real like deserving people. Like the first time we did it, we came down to 3 finals, and we were like, oh my gosh, how can you choose out of these 3 people? Like one had a disabled kid that she had no more money. She had to pay for a handicap ramp, and she was all maxed out, but her roof's leaking. And we're like, it's like killing the inside of the house. So she was one of them. Another one, she just lost her husband. She has 2 young children, and she was young, like nice school teacher girl, and it was like sarcoma cancer. So it was very rapid in his deterioration, how he died. But, you know, she was on a limited income, and I think, you know, the church was trying to help her with stuff. So she was another nominee. And then there was another girl who came down with colon cancer. She was an ambulance worker, EMS, up in Philadelphia. And she was newly married, and they just bought a house, and it was at the top of their budget. And the husband was just trying to work to see what he could get done, and she didn't know if she was going to live or not, and the roof's leaking. So we were like, how the heck do we choose one of these 3 people? And, you know, with the people that backed us up on it, we're going back to them like, you know, we're looking to look like jerks if we turn anybody down. So we gave them all 3. And then the stories behind it are really moving. So check it out on YouTube.
I actually have seen that.
Yeah, you see it.
I'm familiar with those stories. And I'll tell you, man, you're right, though. Life throws curveballs at people. And for that reason, like, somebody else has got to be there to help them hit that ball, man. And that's huge that you pick up that slack where other people didn't, you know.
I mean, it's just really heartwarming. And it's great because people get involved. You know, you've got suppliers and stuff like that that are like, wow.
They're going to get behind this story.
It's a real cause. Yeah. So we saw an opportunity there, and now we're official, and we're trying to like spread our footprint out with that, and just kind of, I mean, just for the people, you know, it's gonna be great. So I'm looking forward to that. But back to the family. So you know, my dad worked for us. That's been great, and I can remember one thing. Like you said, me not being a jerk. You know, I go back to saying like humility is everything. You know, there's always room for improvement. You know, if you ever think you made it, or you like I got it figured out. There's like an old proverb or something that says that the day you think you know it all is the day you only just begun to learn.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so much that you pick up, and you know, 100%. And then you know, and in order to learn, the best way you're going to soak the information up is humility.
Sure.
You know, and it's like, you know, like being
success
cocky
comes on the back of humility.
Yeah,
and like
it's
important.
It's not a matter of like intimidating somebody or anything like that. You know, you always stand your ground, and you never let, you know, you don't take disrespect. You know, but at the same time, you take it humbly, and you know, like, you got this all wrong. You know,
right.
It's easy to correct it, and I know plenty of times where, you know, I have had that little itch in me to be like, what do you say?
Like,
but then
yeah.
it's like, hold on, what's the best way to handle this?
Right.
Like me and you both know.
Yep.
Through different, throwing our hands when we were younger. I mean, I know you're in the same thing, but
yeah.
it's like, how do we get out of this the right way?
Right, exactly.
I got gloves in the trunk.
I can't resort to my old ways.
I know.
But when we learn that we're as good with our words as we are with our hands, then magic can happen for sure.
Well, that's the thing. We're playing chess, not checkers. And one of the things that rings out truly, and I tell my employees this is, I can remember, sometimes you just have the most difficult customers in the world, and one small thing can make everything else get magnified, and you're really just, knowing it's not as bad as they seem, but they are just freaking out. And maybe they're going through a divorce.
Sure,
or
you
maybe
never know what's going on.
They're dealing with, whatever. It could be a host of different things. But I remember this lady, and she went on she was like, this and that, and I just tried everything to make her happy, but, she's like, there's leaves on top of my gutter guard. I'm like, okay, I'll come blow them off. No, I didn't want. She didn't want to pay her bill yet, and she said, and I remember she said to me, this process has been a real pain in the neck. I have half a mind to tell your dad about this. Like back when he ran the company, because I've been in the business for 17 years.
Right.
So a lot of people assume my dad started it.
Same.
I'm like, your dad would have never ran this company like that. I have half a mind to call him and let him know. And I was like, sorry if this lady's watching, but you had to calm down. She said, so she was like, I have a mind to call him and let him know. I was like, man, please don't do that. And I remember one of my 3 children was younger at the time. I said, I just had a baby, and I messed up last week too, and I don't want him to fire me. And that was the ticket. She was like, okay, I'm not going to. That's stronger on her heartstrings. She was like, but if anything else goes wrong, I'm going to call him. I was like, okay, thank you. And that's what made her go away. When really in my mind, this lady was so unreasonable about so many things, I could have been like, go ahead and call him, see what happens. But that was not the resolution. That was like the humility. And I tell my employees that, and it's not a matter of lying, because although I was not totally truthful in saying I don't want him to do that,
right.
I'm sure I messed up something the week before, so I could have applied anything to that.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes all daily.
Absolutely.
But that was the kind. That was
but you gotta love losing. You gotta love those mistakes, because that's where the growth comes.
That's my phrase. I never lose. I only learn, because you're gaining experience as long as you're not making a mistake over and over.
Yeah. So Glenn, you know that we could chat all day about everything. So I want to try to keep us like where we're headed with this conversation, which was, let's talk about real quick any corrective conversations with family members that you had along the way. Then how did you really protect the personal relationship from the professional relationship itself?
Well, that's always difficult. From the beginning, from my wife working in the office to where it is now, my 3 brothers working for me, and I have aunts, I have a lot of cousins and all that. I think respect is a big thing. A lot of times you just have to take a minute, because especially with the ones that you're closest to, like your brothers, you're maybe not as in a space to hear certain things, or feeling like they're out of line, or sometimes you just need to take some time to yourself, and you can't let it go back to the kid when you were kids, and he would put his foot up against you while you're watching TV and say, move your foot. I can think of 100%. Some annoyances, that I started. I'm like, am I just being like me at 10 years old, or, am I like, is this real? Think it through. Take some time. So you're constantly refining that and trying to improve on it. And I think all in all, it's just respect. And
both ways, right?
Yeah. And you know what? Even if you feel they're being disrespectful, a lot of times they're not meaning to, or if they are and you say something to them afterwards, it's a lot better than blowing up.
Right.
Which, we all need work at. There's always better ways to handle stuff. But so that's some of the things, and I think everybody just wanting the best for it. When we know what our mission is and where we want to go with stuff, we're going to, if we keep that in mind, there's always a better way to handle it. And if everybody agrees on that, then we can kind of say, well, was that in course with what we're heading towards here?
Right.
Was it or was it not?
Yeah.
So that's a big thing.
Yeah, that's big though. Like not to interrupt you, but I think when you understand the big picture, the smaller thumbnail pictures don't matter nearly as much, right? So like when you understand that this is what we're headed towards and we're over here fighting over this, like then you look at each other like, wait, what are we doing? Like this is, because I'll tell you, to the opposite, I'm the younger brother. And so when my older brother has a conversation with me, like, and I, he's my sales manager, we'll have conversations. And unlike what you said earlier, where he comes to me with some feedback, initially I'm like, no, that's not true. I don't do that. But then I'll walk away. I'll be like, wait, do I do that?
Yeah.
And so like I'll take that feedback and then I'll be like, I got to do better about this. And then I'll come back and have a conversation, because initially I'm a little defensive with that. And so I got to come back and process
welcome
it.
to maturity.
Yeah. So I got to process it and come back, especially between him and I, because we've been going at it for 33 years. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's pretty commonplace with all families.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of people say, oh, don't work with family, and I can see some people are not able to, but.
And there's some family that doesn't fit. Like there's some family members that 100% like they're not going to be a part of my team. That just can't happen.
It's not always healthy.
Yeah.
But thankfully it has been for us, and we've been able to keep growing and generate a really good culture out of it. So those things are great. And
now, do you have any family involved with Bump Box?
Yeah, my brother Alan.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have 3 partners in that, and they're 2 of them are out in California and 2 of them are back here. So actually, there's a total of 5. One of our guys that's been with us from day one, we actually just brought him in as a minority partner as well.
Nice.
Just as a thank you.
I really like that you do that too, because you did that with G Fedale as well with your that's awesome. I love the fact that you're getting other people, especially people that have been there since day one, like put in the work. You're giving those opportunities. I appreciate that. So get back to like how that all formed, right? So 5 total partners with Bump Box, but how did it all? Because you started down that path a little while ago, but we're all over the place a little bit, and that's okay. Yeah. That's all right. So, listen, that's how our conversation is.
So we got the Flare 8 right here. Yeah. This is one of our flagship models. Kind of like
awesome,
nice carbon fiber finish to it. It's like 230 watts. This thing bangs. It's got a wireless mic. It's Bluetooth. You've got mic input as well as the wireless mic. So if you wanted to use your own like really nice mic rather than the wireless one. Not that ours isn't nice, but some people like the metal ones that they can hold like that. Sure. And it's also got a guitar.
You can connect the boxes too, right? You can connect the different boxes.
Yep, you can do a wireless link with multiple boxes, so you can put it in stereo. It's got mic volume on here. You can play with the echo. Since it's battery powered, which the battery lasts like 11 hours.
Dang.
I got DJs that are using them because with that battery. At your auxiliary input or your guitar input, you can use it as a guitar amp and play off it, or you can use it off of some turntables if somebody were to do a little show outside.
Tailgating, like tailgating. We had it out at our tailgate at the Eagles game, and we had it on the beach, out on the boat.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to take it out on the boat again because I don't want to drop right in the water. But that was before I got my stereo on my boat. So, but no, it's an awesome piece, and like I see it everywhere. So if you guys are watching, like we just finished up with the Super Bowl. We're seeing it everywhere with the athletes. So tell me about that approach and what you guys did there and why you did it and how it's been working for you.
Well, we're in all 50. We're in all the locker rooms, all the NFL locker rooms. We're in a lot of the baseball locker rooms. A lot of the players are endorsing that, and it's not paid endorsements. People just like the product. So if we put a picture of something on there that they like, then they're like. This is it, so we're seeing a lot of stuff with that.
So that's where like the custom wrapped ones and stuff like that come into play. That's dope.
Yeah,
all right,
and that's a pain in the neck.
The
custom wrap. It's the equivalent like on this side. If somebody wants something, I'm like talking to one of my car wrap guys, like, can you get this done for me, man? Because they're used to taking lights out and wrapping something and putting it back together,
Yeah.
But, whereas for me, at our warehouse, we're pumping so many of them things out. This guy's like, what?
Yeah.
I got to go through these vector files and put this together.
Yeah, it's probably better to outsource that stuff. Yeah.
It really, and we still do it, but we're kind of that's one of the growth things in the company is that a viable part of it, and I think it can be, but we just really need to kind of nail it down. So same thing with like any other company, it's the growing pains, but we're seeing so much stuff. We were on The Price is Right last night with Drew Carey, we're giving them away. We were on Deal or No Deal, just a lot of different stuff. So Wheel of Fortune, we were on that, and we were on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Kim Kardashian has her pink one that's all bedazzled out in rhinestones.
Oh, no
and
way.
she knew it by name on the show. We were like, oh my gosh, and that was free.
Yeah.
Like, man, we couldn't have got much better advertisement with that. So there's just so many things, and we've also got some real cool stuff where people do skits with them.
Yeah.
Like we had some guys that left a truck open, and these guys come and jump into it. Like, because they're going to steal. They left the back of like a box truck open, and these guys come to go steal whatever, and it was like some junkies or something. They were like, oh man, look, there's some boxes in there. So they go in to steal stuff, and then they close the door and lock it, and they got a camera on the guy in the back. He's like banging on the wall. He's like, let me out. And they drive off, and then they make it seem like they get stuck on train tracks, right? This is a pretty good YouTube video. You have to look this up.
Check it
The
out.
bump box train trick. Or drain prank, and they make it seem like the truck ran out of gas, and they're over top of like a railroad, and they're like, oh no, the train's coming. So they got their buddy coming from, or he's got the bump box outside, and he's turning up like the train
nice.
right outside of it, so it sounds like the horn's getting closer, and the guys are banging like, let me out, and all of a sudden as he turns it up loud enough, the guy just like huddles himself in a corner because he thinks he's getting ran over by a train.
That's
and then they open the door and they're like, see, you shouldn't steal, and the guy's like, I thought I was gonna die, I'll never steal nothing again.
That's awesome.
And, it was funny, man.
Yeah.
And we've had like countless like cool videos like that, and that's the kind of stuff we like to do. So we really haven't done any kind of paid endorsements, aside from like some web mobilization stuff. But we don't like hire like anything from brand ambassadors or something. We've just been really lucky to have a guy named Trade the Truth, who's really plugged in a lot of industry stuff, introduce us to a lot of people, and use his kind of clout as well as the cool novelty of the product to get us indoors. And we've had some real success with it. We're looking forward to like a crazy year. We had an awesome year last year, and this year is really going to be determining. I've hired some best-in-class talent, a CEO that was involved with some really, really big projects, which I can't really say, but the success of some really big other companies, and we just kind of clicked with her, and now we're planning as of January 1, she's on with us, and we're looking to get some more best-in-class talent and see where we can take this thing. So it's kind of like double down time, It's like, all right, we've done all right with it. Let's see what we can really do. Let's take the rest of the way, It's kind of like put it on black. Yeah. But a little more strategy to it.
I mean, it's awesome because like I see the similarities between it and like the beats, like the way that the beats were marketed and the way the beats were on all the athletes, necks and the interviews and the press conferences and stuff like that after the games and stuff like that. I'm seeing it just the same way, and it's so bizarre because I know that that wasn't the reason, but the bump box and the B, I'm like, okay, this works perfectly.
Well, that was one of the really cool things, and I don't know if you guys have watched the show Defiant Ones. Okay, so that's basically, have you seen that? Basically about Jimmy Iovine and how he from the beginning started with John Lennon, and like mopping floors at a radio place or a studio, and how nobody would get him a job. His first job, he really messed up there, and he's like, man, what do I do? But John Lennon somehow saw something and took him under his wing. And he just thought outside the box, like crazy outside the box. Yeah. Like all the way to, like NWA being something, and like, advocating free speech, and, I mean, then Jimmy Iovine, he's this Jewish guy that most people are looking at him like, what the hell are you doing with these gangsters, But it was amazing. And then how Dre like has him to thank for a lot of stuff, and he helped from all the way back then. I think it was John Lennon, to NWA, to countless other artists, and him staying up for days on end, not because of any kind of substance he was under, but just because he was so passionate about his work. Yeah. Like, you got to go home, you got to stop. You got to go home and get some rest, man. Eat something. You're getting skinny. But
when you love something that much, and like a lot of people, because some people call me a workaholic, but I'm like, look, you don't understand. I love this. Like, I love this part of it. Like, you have hobbies, you have these things you want to do over here. This is what I want to do. This is my hobby. This is what I love. And so
and that's what I was getting at, because Jimmy Iovine is. The reason I brought that up was because you're right. The models, like, get it in front of everything. Make it the staple. People want to deal with this. And he was behind that, making sure every studio had him, making sure every guy that you're supposed to be dealing
Right.
with, like, hey, you don't have Beats headphones and you're an influencer. Why not? Here, take them.
Yeah.
And that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so Jimmy Iovine was the driving force behind that. And
See, I didn't know that, but it makes sense, dude. Hip hop, like, it's funny because we actually had an artist on here recently, A Million the Poet, and we had some conversations about like how hip hop it runs the world, like everything. If you want to know something, listen to one song in hip hop, and it's gonna bring you up to speed.
Yeah.
So I feel like the influence from hip hop, the connection to the bump box, and the connections that you guys have had with those different artists have been huge and will continue to be huge.
It's
awesome.
definitely been huge. Yeah, hip hop is a big driving factor. We've kind of isolated ourselves to that, which we're working on this year to get into more markets.
Sure.
Like as far as country, we've done some stuff with country music, but we haven't been hugely successful with it. We've a couple big artists, but we're gonna focus more on that. For me, hip hop's always been the funnest thing. Like this past weekend, I was with Beanie Siegel, Snoop Dogg at Freeway, and I'm backstage with him, taking cool pictures.
I saw.
Snoop's
It's
like this with a
unreal.
blunt in his mouth, like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, this is like my childhood dream. I used to listen to Doggy Style all the time. But when I was getting back to Jimmy Iovine about Defiant Ones was a cool thing that came up was I'm one of the founding members of Bump Box. Rob being majority, me being second majority partner. Rob was kind of like the first guy in, and he came to me, and we he had this idea, and we've kind of refined the idea over time, and that's how it came about. And this is about 4 years ago. Since then, the Source magazine, which is like, the Bible. I don't know how relevant it is now because everything's taking more of a digital look, but it's it's still pretty relevant. And the Source magazine they're doing a issue on in the last 10 years the 20 most relevant things in hip hop, and they've named Bump Box as one of them. So I was like, holy crap!
No way.
I'm like, it kind of like
That's huge,
kind of makes
man.
me kind of like a baby Jimmy Iovine.
Yeah.
I idolized him through the movie on how he how passionate he was about his work, and obviously how successful he was, and how rich he became afterwards. So that was pretty cool.
It reminds me a lot of I don't know if you heard Damon John's story, from Shark Tank, but when he started FUBU, he literally had a couple of shirts, and he the very first shirt or very first picture of a FUBU shirt was on LL Cool J, and he went to LL Cool J, asked him to wear it. He said no multiple times, and finally convinced him to do it. In the picture, LL's looks mad. He's got a mean mug on. He's not happy.
Yeah.
But that picture took off, and
smiled,
in a non-digital world, that picture was what really kind of set. And it was the same idea, get this on somebody who's in the light, and that was huge. And now, if you still ride through certain areas of New York, you'll see FUBU painted on garage doors of shops that were closed. And he's like, listen, he went to these shop owners, the people that actually own the shops, and said, hey, can we paint FUBU on these shops? And this was in the very beginning. So they're like, yeah, we don't care. And so they went and put the actual brand on it.
It's dressing it up.
Just
making it look like Wynwood.
And at the end of the day, he was getting the exposure off of it because the door was closed up. So it was pretty awesome. So we could dive into the Bump Box thing a little bit more about how to start up. But I'm really curious to know, when you first, this is something that I think your original business, Fedale, building Fedale, now has conditioned you for all these other things that you're getting yourself into, right? Because you learned mistakes along the way. So can we talk about that a little bit? During your climb with Fedale, what was one of the low points, and were there ever times where you thought the business wasn't going to make it through, or?
So I've always been a firm believer on not hiring until you actually absolutely need it. So working 7 days a week. It wasn't oh man, I'm working 7 days a week. I need help. It's all right, now that I have to work 8 days a week, which I can't, then I need the help.
Right.
So, and I was always a firm believer in saving money, not overextending myself, making sure I had a cushion. So it was never a matter of is it going to make it? I have had some pretty big hiccups on the way where it's it put me in a worse situation than I should have been in by maybe trusting somebody undoubtedly that I shouldn't have trusted.
Sure.
And finding out that they were actually doing some things that were malicious, unfortunately, and somebody that I never would have thought do that, not a family member.
Yeah.
But you might as well call him family.
Right.
And we sure treated him like family, and we thought he felt the same way about us. But unfortunately, I'm not obviously going to say any names, but that was a real learning time in my life where it's like, no matter who you got in what position, you need to have a dashboard and know. We keep your finger on the pulse. You need to know what's going on in your business, and that's one of the secrets to doing a lot of different things. People are like, how do you manage all this stuff and how do you do this? I don't.
Exactly.
But I do need to know if something's heading a certain way. You need to know what the lifeblood signs of your different businesses are, and if you're able to get a good dashboard that you're able to check up daily, weekly, whatever it needs to be, then hey, why are sales down, or why is accounts receivable so high, or what's going on here? Why is these gaps going on? And when you do that,
and get an answer too, right? You can't just ask that question. Somebody there who you trust is giving you the answer.
It's like, hold on.
Yeah.
It's Thursday. Reports haven't come out yet.
Right.
Okay, great. They're a day late. Whoa, there's some big difference on these reports. We got to have an emergency meeting.
Right.
And that way, thankfully with the technology age,
so
we can FaceTime.
Yep.
And say,
I'm
looking at the numbers.
Zoom meetings.
Zoom, whatever.
Yep.
And that's the thing, because Bump Box is out in California.
Yeah.
The tattoo shops in Florida, in Miami, and it's just, there's so many different things.
That was one of the reasons why we remodeled our conference room to get with the times, because we've got training from other places, so we wanted to be able to chat with people all over the world and not have to coordinate everybody to one spot, because then it's never going to happen, and when it does, it's going to be pressed.
That's it. That's it. And whether you're needing to talk to a consultant about a certain project that you need to make sure the billing on, whether it has there's some in-depth stuff with prevailing wage and just doing work in opportunity zones and doing that. There's certain people that specialize that, and rather than make mistakes on it, you want somebody to help you that knows it, and rather than having them to fly in from Cleveland or something like that, you can get exactly what you're doing, and you say, all right, this is what we're doing. These are the steps to it, and what. Could cost you a couple $1,000s, could only cost you a couple $100.
Right.
So,
except for my podcast guests, they got to be here in person. So.
I know. Can I call in? Sorry. Honestly, that wasn't meant for you. It was meant for somebody else. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, wrong person. Because I was trying to move meetings. I'm always moving meetings around.
I watch you, man. You're a mover and shaker, man, for sure. So listen, all right. So we talked about some of those low times with Fedale. What about the people on the other end of the camera that maybe are going through those low times? What advice do you have when they're hitting those hiccups and things like that? What advice do you have for them to push past it?
Well, I'll tell you, it's kind of like when me and you go talk to the kids at the detention center. No matter what, whether you're starting out, it's the hardest. Whether you're trying to find your lane, it's the most difficult. I think it's the same thing as when you're hitting a rough time in business. You got to work harder, smarter, and faster than the people around you. And that includes the people that maybe work for you or that you're working for. Because if you lead them by example, either you're going to take your manager's place because they won't need a manager because you don't need to be managed anymore, which all too well.
Yeah.
Or you're just going to fall in line, and that's not for everybody. But if you want to live the life of an entrepreneur and ultimately be successful, I think I think it's something good to stand by, and that's just all in all. I think my old boss told me something that always stuck with me. It was like, if you do good work, you'll always be busy, And I firmly believe that to this day, And I've had to take projects on the chin because of mistakes, but I've made sure to correct anything, and nobody can ever say I've walked away from the job and not rectified it to the best that we ever we could, even if it cost me
but
$10,000 out of my pocket.
That saying "do good work" isn't just in the craftsmanship of the project. That's good work with your people. That's good work with your community, right? So
setting the culture. It's giving back. It's setting the example. It's if somebody does something wrong. I had an employee that, man, I was excited about him and he was doing good. And there's a 7-Eleven by our shop over in Newport, and I know the guy at 7-Eleven. We got like 60-some trucks that are always pulling in there. I even had one stolen from the parking lot there. Like somebody's like, don't leave the keys in the truck. But anyway, somebody stole, I think it was like a Snickers bar or something, and the guy was like, the owner was like, go ahead and check it out. He's like, bam, bam, bam. I'm like, dang, go on it. He's in my Fedale shirt. I was excited about this guy. Man, he's been doing good for 3 weeks. He was a family member of somebody that well respected the company.
Yeah.
So I had to pull him back and say, you got to go, man.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just that's something we don't tolerate. And that's, you know.
Right, and that's the thing. You're protecting your culture with the business and protecting your clients. But like I think people, like, we want to give people chances, but at the same time, like, if you do, what message are you sending to the rest of your team? And so, like, I feel like that's huge. I mean, I actually had to terminate somebody, a couple of months ago, and I waited too long to do it. And when I finally did it, and it was done, the lift in my team was huge. And I was like, damn, man, I did this to my team. But again, like you said, we learned through our mistakes. And I'm a humble guy. When I started this podcast, I said, hey, listen, I'm here to learn just along with everybody on the other end of that camera. I don't know it all. I know a lot. I've learned a lot, but I'm ready to learn a lot more.
Yep.
And so that's the point of all this. It's the point of relationships like this too. It's huge. So listen, I know we got to keep to a good solid time for our team of listeners and our audience. What's our time look like right now, Chris?
I think about 7 minutes.
Okay, cool. So, all right. So one of the things that we do here, the name of the podcast is the Extra Mile Podcast for a reason. For me, I feel like a lot of the things that I've accomplished in my life have happened because I was willing to go the extra mile. I was willing to go outside of the box. I was willing to be uncomfortable in a situation to get to the goal that I was looking for.
Right.
Can you talk about a time where, something that you were trying to accomplish in your life where you really had to go above and beyond the people around you and go the extra mile to get the outcome you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything. You know, like
For real.
like, and I'm not saying I'm a harder worker than anybody else, but I do remember, like, even working for my old boss, it was a drought and there were 72 days that we didn't have rain, and I remember I worked 72 days straight. If there was a chance for work, I was doing it. And it was not only a matter of, like, making money and making overtime, but it was a matter of me being that guy. Like, what? There's a chance to work? I'm there. I'm living this. And then at nighttime, working on my own stuff. I was going to school at nighttime, just really working myself to the bone. Like, I remember I was going to school for accounting and taking night classes, which equaled to be a full-time schedule for several semesters, which was brutal. And it kind of helped make me figure out that I did not want to be an accountant. After a certain while, I didn't get my degree, But I did go for about a year and a half. But I was working full-time as well. I had a baby on the way with my wife. And, I was also on the couple nights that I didn't have school, I was cleaning floors at St. Francis Hospital till midnight. So it was just like anything at every waking moment, because, I got in some trouble and just, similar story. Did a little time when I came home. I was like, I have so much to catch up on.
Yes.
And I'm just gonna work at everything for. When people are going to school or working, I'm doing both of them. Sleep is the cousin of death. I don't need it. I'm getting home at midnight and I'm falling asleep by 1 and I'm up by 5 and I'm back at it and just kind of moving, harder, far smarter, faster than everybody around me. So really giving it my all. And then, exploring, okay, that can only go on for so long, but finding my niche and finding, like, okay, do I want to do this forever? Or can I put my energies to something else and probably get a better night's sleep, live a more healthy lifestyle, find more time for the gym, whatever, which is always a problem.
Yeah.
But
I got a gym right across the street, and I still can't make it there.
Dude, I know, man. I know. It's like, man, as soon as you start saying, all right, I can go at 5 in the morning, so all of a sudden your schedule starts filling up to meetings at 5 in the morning.
It's unreal. But you said 72 days without rain.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know. It was a drought, and he had to work. And my boss, the reason why it made sense for me to go out on my own, and he was cool with it, was he was doing high-end residential, so he was doing like slate, copper tile, cedar, all that kind of stuff. So I got to learn from the old heads, soldering techniques, the really old style way of roofing. And then they also did modified bitumen roofs, and this is when EPDM started becoming big. And this is like in the early 2000s, like 2001, 2002. And he ended up getting kind of getting some more commercial contracts and realizing that commercial was the way to go. So as it was going that route, I was able to work my way up and run jobs. He would send me down to D.C. I would set everything up, set the crane up, set the lodging up, get some temporary labor, have a couple of my guys with me, and we'd knock a job out. And, I prided myself on that, leading by example. It was a great workout. We're killing it. And we're in another state, it's like, all right, cool, let's go have a beer after work,
Yeah.
That was some really fun times. I really learned a lot doing that. And then I remember my wife's mother was selling she was my girlfriend at the time, but she was selling her house. She was like, oh, I need a new roof. This is the price I got. I was like, man, I'm used to setting budgets and stuff up when I'm going out of town for these big commercial jobs. I sure could handle this. And I also learned hand nailing. So we weren't using guns.
Right.
So me and these guys, and they were like, well, we didn't have any work that week. And I was like, I could do it for you. And I'll do it for whatever. I think it was like half the price of whatever, whoever gave her a quote. She's like, are you sure? She wasn't too sure about it, but she gave me the chance. I did it. And, she was really happy with it. And I think I made like a month's wages that Saturday. And I was like, hold on, I'm on to something here. And from that point on, the next one I did with her was my wife's dad, my then girlfriend, but now wife, her dad's house. And I was able to kill it. And then a couple neighbors asked me, and I was like, I'm on to something here. So I just started doing the weekend work, but it didn't interfere with my boss because he was not doing any residential.
Right, yeah.
He was like, go ahead, do it, man. I understand. This is, Cool. This is how you...
Dude, like if people just communicate, like half the time they're so afraid of the consequence, they don't talk. And if they'd just talk, they find that somebody might, not only will they not have a problem with it, but they'll support you. You know what I mean?
And that's the problem that you run into, man, because once you try to start being deceptive, it's 100%. A downward slope. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
You find
they're
yourself...
going to find out.
Yeah, they're going to find out, and then you find yourself having to lie and lie more, and then stealing doesn't become such a bad option. Yep. And, there's this fine line between stealing customers and, and we've dealt with it all.
Yeah.
And, I don't hold grudges against anybody. I think forgiveness is one of the biggest keys in life. Forgiveness is letting our prisoner free and realizing the prisoner is yourself. Because the only thing you get from holding grudges is holding yourself back from growth.
100% true. 100% true.
And
it takes two people to hold somebody prisoner. One's watching the door, one's watching the prisoner, and then there's the prisoner inside. Yeah. So when you release him, you free your time up too. You get yourself back.
That's it. Yeah. And you're not holding that grudge. And I'd say all the time, hey, I don't hold grudges, man.
Yeah.
Listen, I've already forgiven you for that a long time ago, whether you told me you're sorry or not.
Yeah. Because it's for you. It's for you.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm gonna put $100 in your hand and say give it to me back next week, but same thing. I'm not handing out loans to you, but
right.
Well, it's learning from it. So
I had one more question. What did you have something you wanted to add to that?
No.
Okay, I have one more question before we wrap up here, and that was just how did the whole, because you were on the CNBC Blue Collar Millionaires thing a couple of years ago. How did that whole thing play out? Like, how did that come to be?
It was cool, man. Like, so they did a Skype interview. This is when Skype was still a thing. And this is like 4 years ago. If you look it up, it's pretty funny. You just do Glenn Fedale, CNBC.
Yeah,
and then it'll
we'll try to find the link and attach it to the video. We'll try to find it.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. They just reached out and they were like, at first it was called, the show wasn't even called Blue Collar Millionaire. It was called American Made. I was like, oh man, this is cool. This is like salt of the earth. This is what this is describing me. What, you want to talk to me about this show coming out?
Right.
All right. So I did the interview. And it's funny, the lady who did the interview also had some work in producing Miami Ink. So she was familiar with some of my people. She was like, I think I met you at a party before. And I'm like, she's like, this is so ironic.
It's a small world, bro.
Yeah, she was like, and we just had a good rapport. I can't remember her name, but she was a light-skinned girl with like cool, like dreadlocks, like kind of like frosted tip dreadlocks. I don't know. I should remember. Sorry if you're watching this. I didn't remember your name. Reach out to me. But anyhow, she was like, I really like your energy. I was like, yeah, I like yours too. She asked a couple questions and this and that. I didn't know if it was going to be anything come of it. I was just like, wow, that was cool, And if it was something, it was something. I knew they do all kinds of pilots, all kinds of different things. And, I was just like, wow, whatever. And then they reached back out to me and they're like, okay, it looks like the network's picking it up. It's going to be prime time, except they're changing the name to Blue Collar Millionaires. And I'm like, I was kind of, I wasn't going to say no. But I was like, Blue Collar Millionaires, that kind of sounds like, I don't want to be arrogant or brag.
Right.
American Made sounds so much cooler.
Yeah.
So I was like, but whatever. They say, but we're not sure yet. It might go back. I'm like, all right, whatever. Yeah. So they scheduled filming and they did like a month of filming. I'm sorry, a week of filming. So they did like 40 hours of filming where they came out, these guys, the film crew and the producer,
You guys were all over the place because you were up north at your house up there, and then down at West Ocean City.
Yeah, they went to see my beach house in Ocean City. We were up in what was it, Princeton, New Jersey, doing a shopping center roof that I was doing up there. So they came up and filmed us doing that, and then my house in Hockessin, and just the shop and kind of like. It was, man, we literally did 40 hours of filming for like 20 minutes of footage.
Isn't it crazy?
And I thought I said
Chris knows all about that.
I thought I said some really cool stuff. I'm like, they're definitely going to use that. They're definitely going to use that. And I didn't get to pre-see the episode.
Yeah.
And you'll see at the start of like something, they were like, say something funny by the side of the roof. Say something about money. Say something funny. I was like, I make it rain. Oh, I just came to mind. I'm like, all right. I thought I said some real novel stuff besides that, but for some reason they chose to use that. I'm like, for real?
No such thing as bad publicity.
I know, not buzzing on the editor, but I was like, man. We were talking about like that deep stuff. You know,
yeah,
put that
words
in
of
there?
wisdom, man.
So whatever, but it was cool, man. And the really funny thing was, it was broadcast in like over 60 countries and like millions and millions of people saw it. So I had people hitting me up. Like, I remember I was in Vegas years ago at a blackjack table, and this guy was like winning. He was winning big, and I'm not a big gambler, so I was winning,
Yeah.
But like, I think I was up like $1,000. He was up like $25,000.
Yeah.
So we're like high five, and we had the best time. And I was like, I'm gonna be late for my plane. He's like, all right, don't leave till the shoe's done. And a year later, I get a call. Or it was probably like 3 years later, but it was when it came out. The guy lived in Canada, and he's like, yo, Glenn, what's up, man? I don't know if you remember me. I was at the blackjack table, and however I programmed his name in there, I remember, it was like Brad Winter in Vegas or something like that.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, I remember you. He's like, yo, I'm up here in Canada, and I'm watching you on TV, and my daughter doesn't believe that I know you. And I was sitting there playing with you. I'm like, yeah, that's me. She's like, oh, my God. I was like, oh, man, I feel kind of like, I was like a D-list celebrity or something.
I did the same thing with my daughter when you had that picture with you and somebody at a concert. One of the
Wayne Brady?
No, it was one of the girls that, gosh, I can't even think of who it was, but it was, she's a singer, she's an artist. Gosh, I can't remember who it is, but anyway, I showed my daughter, and I was like, no, this is my buddy Glenn that I know. And she's like, oh, you know him? She's like, I'm trying to know her. So I was like, don't work like that, baby. But, so listen, dude, again, we could talk all day, but we're going to make sure this is a watchable episode for everybody. Maybe we'll do another episode with Glenn another time.
Yeah, for sure.
G, tell everybody how they can contact you or how they can follow you on social media. What's the best way for them to do so? All
right. Well, first off, follow bumpbox.com. or at Bumpbox, and that's with 2 X's. So it's BUMPBOXX. If you only use 1 X, it's a maternity website, and that's not mine. So at Bumpbox with 2 X's, and then my Instagram personally is Fedale. So it's F like in Frank, EDALE, GFEDALE. Just at Fedale, and we got Fedale Roofing. Check us out online, and then we got GFP Cement. So if you guys have any loads of cement that you want perfectly delivered at the perfect hydration and the perfect mix for the perfect PSI, we're your guys.
I like it.
So
bro, did you just come up with that, man? That was pretty freaking good.
Thanks. I think I said perfect today, John. But whatever.
All right, G, it was a pleasure having you on the show, man.
You,
guys, tune in next time for the next episode of the Extra Mile Podcast, and we're out.